They are from ADAK, that is the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, and they're going to shed light on the state of doping in the country. Beginning with my immediate right is Madam Penina Wahome, who is the Director, Standards and Compliance at ADAK. Karibu.
Thank you very much.
I hope I got that right.
Sure.
Absolutely. And Mr. Bildad Rogonsho, who is the Head of Legal Services at ADAK. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much. Honored to be here.
Let's start at high. What's the state of doping in the country? I'll start with you, Madam Wahome.
Thank you. I would say that we are there. We are aware that there's doping that is happening in the country, not to a very large scale, but we cannot close our eyes to the fact that there's doping that's going on, currently being managed at the highest level, especially following the government funding that the agency received, and that has increased the level of testing that we are conducting amongst the athletes. Yes.
Talking of testing, probably in the last year, taking it back to June 2023 up to July 2024, how many cases have you, how many tests have you done so far?
I would say that we've conducted over 4,500 tests within that period across disciplines. Yes. Yeah.
And over to you, Mr. Bildad. A lot of efforts have been put in place, including the formation of ADAK, which wasn't here some years back. And this was informed by the fact that, as a country, doping was becoming a menace, let me say a national problem. But several years down the line, from where I sit, it seems we are losing the war. Why is this the case?
Thank you, Sila. I think, I don't think as a country we are losing the war on doping. As a matter of fact, we are making great strides in this particular fight. And I'll tell you why. Starting from 2011, when, as we all know, there was an expose by a German television network on the prevalence. Yes, precisely. On the prevalence of doping in this country. And, the steps that were taken, the formation of ADAK, the commitment that the government has given, especially from the highest office in the land, the number of samples, as my colleague has put it, that we are now collecting at over 4,500 samples. A few years back, we were only collecting about less than 1,000 samples. We have enhanced the collaboration between ourselves and the international federations. We have increased even our collaboration with even our local key stakeholders. So basically, we are taking this war to where it's supposed to be. The athletes who are engaged in doping, we are at their doorstep. The rogue medical practitioners, we have now revamped our intelligence gathering and investigations, and we are more focused on how do we cut the head of the snake. But in terms of banning athletes, I'm sure every Kenyan out there knows and has seen, we've been banning athletes for 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, which is basically a life imprisonment, if you'd put it.
Actually, that's the elephant in the room, because you're saying you've increased surveillance, more and more samples are being taken, but week in, week out, still we are getting cases of Kenyans being sanctioned. As late as last week, actually, the Athletics Integrity Unit released a statement, and 3 Kenyans have been sanctioned, even without mentioning the names. And you look at the forms of doping, probably, Wahome, you delve into that. Most of our athletes, they're being sanctioned for whereabouts failure. Does it mean that we've not done a lot of capacity building, enlightenment? Why is that most of this is about whereabouts failure?
I think my position here would be that our athletes have not taken that area with a lot of concern. And we are really involved and engaging them currently to make sure that they understand that other than using or having a substance within their body, they can also be sanctioned for failure to update their whereabouts and also for missing a test. For example, if you say that you're at a certain place within a certain time and the testing officials come looking for you and you're not available, that counts. If in the same period of 1 year you have not updated your whereabouts on time or given precise and good whereabouts, that counts as well. So 3 of such omissions within 1 year counts for an anti-doping rule violation. And like you were saying, it is true we have had athletes getting sanctioned because of that omission.
But how do we address, how do we proceed going forward? Because despite the efforts you guys are saying you are making, we are still having lots of these cases, which is unfortunate because you look at it, Kenya is the leading country in as far as athletics is concerned in Africa and probably the world. And this has put us in danger. We nearly went the Russian route had it not been for the state intervention. How do we proceed? So in terms of whereabouts, what we're doing right now is that we have staff who are engaging athletes on one-on-one basis. We're going to them in their camps. We are meeting them in our workshops. We are educating them on how to take personal responsibility for their whereabouts. Previously, we have seen athletes maybe delegating that responsibility to their managers or to the federation officials. And because of the issues of communication that possibly are moving from this place to the next, you'll find that the updating of the whereabouts is delayed. But when the athlete takes personal responsibility, they are sure doing it on time. And we have seen great improvement with the way the athletes are now currently handling their whereabouts. We're not going to stop there. We engage them and we'll make sure that they understand the consequences, because that is, we usually say, one way that we should not have our athletes being sanctioned. And the agency is committed to bring that to zero. Maybe you are a legal mind or a lawyer, so to speak. Do you think maybe the laws we have, are they stringent enough on punishing the culprit? And what do we need to do? Because, and I would also want you to talk to the aspect of over-the-counter doping, which is also a challenge. And that still goes again to awareness and enlightenment. As an athlete, I have a headache. I walk over the counter there, mtani. Chemist there prescribes a medicine. I consume that. The next time Swila has failed the doping test, how do we confront this?
I mean, looking at the laws that are in place, remember the anti-doping program is governed by various laws, including the Anti-Doping Act, the ADAK anti-doping rules, the World Anti-Doping Code, the international standards, and all these documents an athlete is required to be aware of. Do we have the sanctions, especially in the Act, are they sufficient? Our Act normally applies to the athlete support personnel. These are the coaches, the medical practitioners, you know, the agents and all that. When it comes to the athlete, it is only when an athlete is involved, for example, in administering a prohibited substance, that's when now he or she will be in collision with the Anti-Doping Act. But for the athlete, in terms of the anti-doping rule violations, they are governed by the anti-doping, the ADAK anti-doping rules. Just to let you know, we are now going to embark on amendment of the Anti-Doping Act. And for sure, when you look at the sanctions that are provided for under Section 42 of that Act, they are quite lenient. We've had cases that we've taken before the Kericho law courts, for example, the JKI law courts. And the case goes on for a year or two, and finally the accused is, gets to serve only 1 year imprisonment, a fine of 50,000, you know. And at that time they have committed, a serious offense. Remember that doping in this country has not been taken very seriously. And as I pointed out earlier, His Excellency the President has actually talked about this. So you can imagine how serious this government is taking this issue. So indeed, as we start on the amendment process of the Act, we will be involving all the relevant stakeholders so that we know which penalties do we enhance.
Absolutely.
In which area. There's a talk that has been going on, a very serious discussion regarding whether do we criminalize the aspect of presence of a prohibited substance. If an athlete, for example, uses EPO or prednisolone, do we then charge them before the mainstream courts? How do we deal with them?
Yes.
And those are the discussions that, moving forward from this particular financial year, those are the discussions we are taking down to the stakeholders to give us their views on how they want to handle that. When it comes to the aspect of over-the-counter medication.
Yes.
You know, as a community in this country, we have this culture of self-medicating.
Yes.
And I always say that if you are an athlete, then treat yourself as if you are a Christian who has a Bible. It means, therefore, as an athlete, then the ADAK anti-doping rules should be your Bible.
Should be your Bible.
Yes.
And Madam Penina, probably take us, there is a report which I was consuming, and this was authored by WADA in 2018, and it was titled Doping in Kenya. And it found 138 Kenyan athletes had tested positive for prohibited substances between 2004 and 2018. Now, maybe enlighten the viewer on the banned substances or the prohibited substances that an athlete must avoid. And now, even as we go forward, we'll be delving into the team in Paris. But what are these prohibited substances? And how, as an athlete, do I know now I must not interact with this? At what point do I draw the line?
Okay, thank you. There's a whole standard, like my colleague talked about, the international standard, and this is the standard for prohibited substances. There are quite a number. We have what you call the over-the-counter drugs. We have substances that also enhance performance by ingestion, like, for example, EPO, and the list is so wide. Very, very wide. So what we do is that we recommend that the athletes and the medical personnel familiarize themselves with that list, and that they, whenever an athlete is going for medication, they are able to see and share that list with their medics, and they are advised, or they can check that this particular medication is not prohibited. Our concern as the agency for now is that we are not having as much uptake of what we call the therapeutic use exemption, which an athlete can utilize when they have a condition that will warrant them to use any of the prohibited substances. Yes.
Okay.
So we would want them to apply for TUE, and especially after the medics have confirmed that this particular substance they are using does not have available alternative in the market, or it is the only substance that can be consumed for that particular condition, and we can provide for an allowance or a certificate for them to use that medication if it is for genuine and legit purposes.
In terms of regulation and surveillance, from where I sit, I think there's a lot of gaps there, because some of these athletes would say, it was my manager, it was my agent who pushed me to do this, who asked me to do this. And because probably this is also a business. Yeah. If I'm managing you as an athlete, and of course you shatter a world record or you win a gold in marathon, it means I'll also be smiling all the way to the bank. True. And there's this craze to get rich quick. How do I win this? How do we tame this? The aspect of rogue managers, rogue agents, how do we streamline it? Because at the end of the day, when these athletes fail the doping, it is Kenya ambayo inapakwa tope kama taifa.
It is quite true that you know, there are various factors when it comes to doping by athletes. You know, you'll have, as you put it, that you have the athlete support personnel, the agents, the managers, and all that, who aid the athlete to dope. Now, that is one space that has been unregulated for some time now. For the last 1 year, we have put a lot of emphasis on that particular, regarding that particular issue. And what we are doing is that we are collaborating with the local or the national federations, so that
Athletics Kenya.
Yeah, so that we can be able to monitor who are these agents that are coming into the country. Because initially it was you know, a door open for all and sundry, and you would have someone coming in and picking an athlete, taking them to China for 3 months. They run, and as you said, it's a business. You know, they're making money from this athlete, and some of them may be quite naive that you know, they are misled to using some of these substances. It's very unfortunate, but it is one area where we are putting more emphasis. And as you know, the war on against doping is now moving towards intelligence gathering and investigations. It's about curbing it. It's no longer about just catching the athlete. It's about preventing it. And how do we do that? We have to do thorough investigations. We have to prevent this from happening.
Let's shift gears, Penina, and go to the Summer Games, Paris Olympics in France.
Okay.
And as we speak, Team Kenya is already there, ready to defend the flag and probably win us medals. From where you sit, can you convince the nation that the athletes we have there are all clean, and when the race starts, we won't have cases of personnel X has actually failed and therefore not competing? What have you done? Can you assure the country?
So thank you. Yes, as of now, as I sit here, I can say that all the athletes are clean. That is based on all the tests that you have done and the results that have come back. I want to, however, say that there are tests whose results we have not received, and especially the ones that were done over the last...
Roughly how many of the team that has traveled?
Roughly how many? I would say probably about 50% of them, because we did tests like 2 weeks before they traveled. What we do with such late tests, we ask the lab to give us fast turnaround times. So we're expecting that we'll have their results coming in this week. And we can only confirm that an athlete is as clean as of the point when we have checked the results. But as of now, all of them, 100% are clean.
So if I heard you clearly, there's no assurance that we won't have such cases.
We can never guarantee. Also because, you see, that we're talking about the tests that were conducted by the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya.
Yes.
There are other parties that are testing their athletes.
Yeah, sure.
We have the international federations that are testing their athletes. We have the International Testing Authority, who is in charge of testing during the game. So testing will continue. And we can never guarantee that the next test, or the next test result, will be as clean as the previous one. And that is why we always ask the athletes to be very careful about what is it that they're ingesting. They take personal responsibility for anything that happens. Yes.
I'm asking this because we are all alive to the fact on what happened Tokyo 2022 in a very high-stakes race.
Yes.
And one of us was not able to compete. Yeah. But probably, Mr. Rogonsho, when we talk about doping and sample taking or testing, what comes to mind is the athlete, and these actually men on the road and the track. But we are forgetting this holistic. We're talking of football, rugby, and any other sport discipline. But we don't see you guys a lot in that area. Or if at all you do it, it's never out there in the public limelight. Why is that the case? Is it just this concentrated on athletics or the other disciplines? Because we're not really seeing a lot of effort in that area. No,
actually, Tila, if you... I mean, we've done a lot with other sport disciplines. The reason why maybe you're only hearing about athletics is because of the numbers. You know, it's Athletics Kenya remains the biggest federation that we have. Kenya is well known for athletics. Go outside there and everybody's asking you whether are you an athlete, you know. But that does not mean that we are forgetting the others. And if they're out there and they're hoodwinking themselves that we may have forgotten them, no, that's not the case. In fact, as recent as just last week, we've had quite a number of basketball, positive cases. We've had rugby, we've had bodybuilding, boxing. I mean, just to name a few. This is
swept under the carpet, if I may put you on the spot. You sweep this under the carpet, so probably the effort you're making, you see it's as good as when you communicate, and that's the essence of having communication teams. Because you're making very valid point. We've had cases that turned out positive. It's not out there in the public. You guys don't communicate it.
We actually release these names on a weekly basis. And let me throw it back at you. I think the media never interested.
I don't get it myself.
I think going forward, we should be sharing even with the citizens that you also get to know what is happening. But I think 97% of the cases that we deal with are mostly, athletics Kenya based. But we concentrate also on the other sport discipline, because as you know, we are about to host AFCON. So that means I'm
not so sure about that.
Football, be aware.
Be aware. Okay. So probably, what's expectation for Team Kenya? Paris begins 4 days from now, 26. It will run up to around 14. Of course, we are aiming to win medals, but off the track, the question would be, Team Kenya has won clean. They've won 10 gold medals. They've topped Africa. What basically should we expect from ADAK with this competition?
I would say that we've gone out of our way this particular time to test athletes. We started a long time, way before everybody started talking about qualifying and meeting the requirements for testing for the Olympics. We were out there testing athletes during qualifications. We were out there testing them during the build-up meets. We were out there testing them over the time. So we have walked a long journey with the athletes in terms of preparing them for the Olympics. We, as an agency, can only wish Kenyan athletes the best. And we are telling them at this particular time that it is over to them. We want them to make the country proud by maintaining a clean environment, first of all, as an individual and entirely as a team. Because as the agency, we've done our best to prepare them for the Olympics.
And as we do this, we want to see you in Mashinani. I want to see in Busia. I want to see in my village. I want to see in Lunga Lunga, not just in Nairobi.
We have, in fact, thank you for saying that, because I also want to correct the notion that you had that we're only concentrating in athletics. If you're coming from, where did you say? Lunga Lunga.
Yeah,
we've tested teams. We've gone for competitions, both football, rugby, volleyball, everywhere on the grassroots. We've tested here in Nairobi. We have been out there testing everyone else, but like my colleague said, it's only because the numbers are big in athletics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogonsho, you have quite a difficult surname, but as we wind up, probably what should we expect in the next 5 years in terms of awareness campaign, in terms of capacity building? And probably from where I sit, I think you guys need to make media your partners in this campaign, and particularly Royal Media. What should we expect to see?
I think the first thing we're going to do from here is we're going to organize, we need to have a sitting with the Royal Media so that we bring you closer, so that we can work together.
Yeah.
I think it's important to mention that we are currently implementing a project. The project is referred to as the Enhanced Athletics Anti-Doping Program. Basically, we want to clean that particular sport. We are very concerned with the numbers that are there. We're very concerned with the allegations that are peddled out there. There's always a clamor, both to WADA and the World Athletics, to ban Kenya. And so we want to demonstrate to the world that we are doing all that we can to ensure that we are playing clean as Kenyans. When you talk about doping, the moment one individual has tested positive from Kenya, word goes out that Kenyans are not winning.
Absolutely.
Clean,
and the Western media will always push on that.
And it is very unfortunate. But in the next 5 years, trust you me,
in 10
you
seconds,
will see.
Is the funding sufficient?
Implementing the project right now, it is sufficient.
It is sufficient.
It is sufficient. But at the end of the project, and we go back to where we were, we'll be going back on the gains that we'll have made. Okay. Absolutely.
Closing remarks, Wahome, real quick. What should we expect, and maybe your vision?
We, like my colleague has said, we are really engaged in making sure that we are weeding out doping in this country. We are doing that by way of education, first of all, creating awareness, making athletes take personal responsibility for whatever it is they do, whether it is their whereabouts, whatever they ingest and everything else. We're reaching out to all the sports disciplines, and we are asking Kenyans to also speak to us, because we are saying that the athletes that dope are also living amongst us. So it's a community war, it's a national war. Everybody should be involved in it as we go towards zero doping in sports in Kenya. Yes.
Thank you very much. That is Madam Penina Wahome, the Director of Standards and Compliance at ADAK, that is the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. Of course, she's joined by Mr. Bildad Rogonsho, who is the Head of Legal Services at ADAK. I thank you most heartily for making time to speak to us here on Sporty Monday.
Thank you.
And of course, pass my regards and appreciation to Madam Anne, who made this engagement possible.
Thank you, Ishal. Thanks for the opportunity. Like he said, we look forward to more engagements, yes.
Of course, with RMS, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And of course, this Sporty Monday, those are our guests from ADAK. And of course, we cross our fingers and wish Team Kenya all the very best at the Summer Olympics game in Paris 2024. We look forward to the medals. And of course, not any negative news of a failed doping test. Sporty Monday takes a brief commercial break, but we'll be back shortly. Stay tuned.